evening and welcome to another edition of Electricity Town Hall, a program being sponsored by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NERC), aimed at keeping consumers of electricity abreast of happenings in the nation's power sector. This program comes your way every Monday on the network service of Radio Nigeria at 7 o'clock in the evening. NERC is the regulator for the nation's power sector, interfacing with electricity generation companies known as GENCOs, the Transmission Company of Nigeria (TCN), and the distribution companies (DISCOs). I'm David Umur Yanka. The Nigerian electricity supply industry (NESI) is the framework for electricity generation, transmission and distribution in Nigeria. It's a critical sector that plays a vital role in Nigeria's economic development, fueling industries and improving the standard of living. However, the NESI faces ongoing challenges such as providing reliable and affordable power to a growing population. One area that has remained critical has been the distribution sector, where consumers are given electricity and in turn required to pay for services rendered. Owing to issues surrounding electricity supply, consumption, bills, electricity theft and consumer protection, the federal government has introduced several initiatives geared towards protecting the consumer, while also providing the investor the enabling environment to get returns on their investment. Today we'll be looking at data and power sector regulation in the Nigerian electricity supply industry (NESI). How much information do relevant agencies have on customers, and what efforts are being made to ensure accurate data presentation? These and more will be interrogated tonight on Electricity Town Hall as we look at customer protection in the Nigerian electricity supply industry (NESI). We have in the studio an Assistant Director, Intergovernmental Relations, Office of the Chairman of NERC, Mr. Michael Faloshe. Welcome to our studio.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Conrad.
It's a pleasure. Also with us is a Principal Manager, Legal Licensing and Compliance Division of the Commission, Uzoma Agbaim. Welcome also to the program.
Good to be here.
Thank you all. So we just take off as we are here. For regulatory decisions, orders and regulations to be just and fair, there's a need for accurate data. Am I right?
That's correct.
So the NERC in 2025 first quarterly reports states that there are over 13 million electricity users on the national grid. How reliable is the data on Nigerians and on the national grid?
Thank you, David Umoro. The decisions of regulators must be sound, must be infallible, and must be seen to be fair and just to all. And the basis of doing that one, you need data, and you need accurate data. And right from the word go, the Commission was conscious of the need for accurate data. When you look at the terms and conditions of licenses given to the operator, it is there that operators are supposed to submit accurate data. And a failure to submit accurate data is like committing what I would call harakiri to the operator. It's a punishable offense.
Okay.
So that figure can be taken to the CBN, so to say. That figure is reliable, even though data in the industry is a moving target. It's not static. As we are talking, people are building houses, new consumers are coming on board. So it's a moving target. So, but what we do at our level is to ensure that at all time, our data on the industry is reliable, is accurate. Even though it is moving, we also, make effort to catch up with it to ensure that the data that we have is reliable and is accurate. So I will tell you that the over 13 million figure quoted in the first quarter report of the Commission is a true reflection of the total number of Nigerians on the national grid. However, I'll put a caveat. We still have people who are stealing electricity.
Okay.
We have people who are unwanted visitors on the grid. And that's the appeal that we would like to make to those. There's a popular saying, if you see something, say something. If your neighbor is stealing electricity, is in a way passing the cost of what he is consuming to you. Because those data, the number of consumer, all those statistics are what will determine the final tariff of what you pay as electricity consumer. So when you see somebody stealing or somebody is not on the grid and is consuming electricity, you hold yourself that responsibility to report to the commission or to the service provider.
Okay, Mr. Faloshe. Now, for a listener, over 13 million consumers to be on the national grid is just a number. But for you experts, when you see that number, what does it represent? What does it tell you? Is there, does it represent an achievement or an overload? Because when a layman sees that data or hears that data, they're like, okay, 13 million out of over 200 Nigerians. So, and you said it's a moving variable.
Yeah.
Are you expecting more to come on, or this is already an overload? So when you see this data, what does it tell you? What does it read?
Well, there are still some unwanted guests on the network. So our effort is to ensure that as many people that are on the network are captured and they are in the book of the service provider. When you talk what does the number means to me, it means money. It means request for service.
Okay.
It means meeting demand of an average Nigerian. Some people may even say, okay, why are you talking of 200,000? Why are you talking of 13 million? But you discover that that figure is very close to what we have. Let's say an average family is 4 to 5 people. By the time you divide that, you will be getting to around 25 or 20 thereabouts.
Okay.
So you can see that you are moving very close to what you have. It could be more than that. But you also realize that we have access to electricity of maybe about a larger number of percentage of Nigerians do not have access. Give or take, let's say we have access of about 60 or 50%. So it covers that figure is very close to.
Okay, close to what
should
actually
be.
what. I'll come to you now, Mr. Osama. Some of the complaints of electricity utility customers include the unavailability of prepaid meters and having to pay estimated bills. What is the Commission doing to address these issues?
The issue of the unavailability of prepaid meters is an issue that the federal government and the Commission is taking very, very seriously.
Okay.
And over the years, the Commission has initiated several interventions to close this metering gap in the NESI.
Okay.
Some of the initiatives include the National Mass Metering Program, the Prudential Metering Initiative, and currently we have the MISA Asset Provider Scheme that deregulates this metering space to allow for qualified and registered Nigerian companies to manufacture, import, and install meters for all the discos in Nigeria.
Okay.
We have removed a lot of these bureaucratic bottlenecks to register these maps. And the initiative is geared towards ensuring that the metering gap is closed.
Talking about closing the metering gap, Mr. Faloshe, how does that affect your data when you're capturing these electricity customers on the national grid?
You see, in other clime, the first contact between you and the service provider is your meter.
Okay.
It's like an interface. And it's a Nigerian scenario whereby somebody will be on the grid without meter. So the implication of that is that you are buying gari or rice from a retailer without a measuring instrument. That's the implication. So in some instance, you see either the seller is being cheated
Or the buyer.
or the buyer. On the basis of when you are categorized either in band A, B, C, D, and they also look at your feeder, they are able to put a capping in place so that you be paying something very close to the level of service that is available in your area. But let me also step back a bit to tell you that historically, before privatization, there was no any accurate data of the number of Nigerians that are consuming electricity until when the Commission set up a committee to go around Nigeria to see the level of the metering gap. And I think as at date, the level of metering was around 43-45% metering level. Now, what we have been able to achieve basically is at least to make sure that we did not degenerate below that level.
Okay.
Because of course our population is increasing every day. We've been able to sustain that level. But with the new initiative like the National Mass Metering Program that my colleague mentioned, by the time the program attain higher throttle, we will be able to close the gap at a faster rate. What we've been able to achieve is to make sure that we are not degenerating below what was done some 10, 15 years ago on the metering gap.
Okay.
But after that one, we introduced what we call CapMe. That is credit advance metering initiative, where customers were allowed to pay for meter and they are refunded. After CAPME, we brought in MAP, that is Meter Asset Provider Service. So whereby a lot of some investors were brought in to fund metering. After that one, you have a federal government initiative. So we have other initiatives like that to ensure that Nigerians are metered. Because when you are not metered, it becomes so opaque. Like the man that I mentioned, even when he has consumed the light, he may not want to agree that he has consumed the light because there is no measurement. It's like, as I mentioned, if you go to market and what you have used to scoop rice from the seller's tray is your hand, it could become
2 modu, it could be 1 modu,
it could be anything. And the man look at you and say, oh, okay, you are very tall. You may have a very tall physique and have a very short finger.
True.
And say, okay, because of your height, what you have taken is 2 mudu. And he may come and have a very wide palm.
But not that tall.
But he's able to scoop better than I do. So it's just that scenario. So when you do not have accurate data of the consumer, so it becomes argumentative whether he has consumed or not. But the commission, being a forward-looking organization, we have also put in place what we call the capping methodology. I believe some of my colleagues have come here to explain what we mean by that capping methodology, which is a way to make sure that within your area, what you are being charged is very close to what someone with meter in your area is paying. But even at that, it's still debatable, because I may have a family of 6 and my children may be using electricity from morning till evening. Yes. You may even have a family of 10 or 8 and your people are they don't use electricity. So it's very, very possible. So those are the things. So that one, so whatever method you have brought in, for as long as there is no meter, is as good as a guesswork. What you do is a guesswork. But what the commission has done is to make sure that, okay, even though you don't have meter, let us find some level of comfort for you to protect you. But the final target is to make sure that everybody is metered. And when everybody is metered, it solves 2 problems. Number 1, you are able to manage your consumption. That's number 1. Sure. Then the revenue in the industry is also protected. Because without you protecting the revenue, the nature of electricity business is that what you are paying today is to fund investment for tomorrow. So if you are not paying today, the possibility of you getting electricity tomorrow becomes very difficult.
You're listening to Electricity Town Hall on the network service of Radio Nigeria, a program being sponsored by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC. We'll go on a short break, and when we return, more data will be provided on electricity consumption and also metering. Stay with us.
This is Electricity Town Hall on the network service of Radio Nigeria. We will be back shortly.
Power wey dey your house, light wey dey show your road, your safety dey sure every day. NERC dey your back gidigba to make sure say service dey clear, bills dey straightforward, and that no kurukere billing at all. Even if light no dey, you still get right to sharp response and better communication. No more hidden charges or to cut light anyhow. Na Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission (NERC) dey make sure say dem hear your complaint, respect your rights, and make the power truly dey for your hand. For more information, waka enter www.nerc.gov.ng. NERC, make light for the day.
We are back with Electricity Town Hall on the network service of Radio Nigeria.
It's still Electricity Town Hall on the network service of Radio Nigeria, and we're discussing customer protection in the Nigerian electricity supply industry, and we're looking at data and power sector regulation in the Nigerian electricity supply industry, NESI. We've been speaking with an Assistant Director, Intergovernmental Relations, Office of the Chairman of NERC, Mr. Michael Faloshe. Once again, thanks for joining us on this program.
Thank you for having me.
Also, we have in the studio Principal Manager, Legal Licensing and Compliance Division of the Commission, Mr. Uzoma Agbayim. Thank you also for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, before we went on break, we were going to talk about data for this initiative. Please.
Yeah. So the first quarter report of 2025, the Commission's first quarter report, we had about 13.767 million registered users. The total customers on the network.
Okay.
Over all the discos, 13.76.884 users.
Across Nigeria.
Across Nigeria.
Okay.
And the metered customers are 6.468.036 million users. And in the first quarter, all the discos were able to register and connect 187,000 users. So you see that the metering rate has gone up by 4.7%.
Okay.
So that is exactly what's happening. So the metering rate is going up because of this mass metering initiative by the Commission and the discos.
Okay, in as much as the population is growing and households are coming up every other day, as at when these data were captured, in terms of percentage, where do you where does that 13 million stand?
I think that should be around 46% of
46%
of the total customers that are metered.
Okay.
About 47%.
Of the entire coverage.
Yeah.
That's quite a fair one. And should all of these initiatives go through, then we're looking at something even a lot higher before the next first quarter of next year.
There's an important component of the MAP scheme, which is the Meter Asset Fund, right? So there's a steady fund that these MAP agents can actually access to deploy these meters. So it's not as if these funds are not available. The funds are available. And then obviously because of the deregulation of the prices of meters, customers can actually buy these meters and get refunded through credit tokens. So this has enabled the discos to, push out more deployment of prepaid meters.
Okay, and definitely, Mr. Agbayim, where there are upsides, there will definitely be downsides too.
Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges in the implementation of these initiatives, and what is the Commission doing to overcome these obstacles?
Yeah, so one of the obstacles we have, I'll take it bit by bit. When it comes to the deployment of meters, one of the challenges we have is funding.
Okay.
The discos are limited in funding. They have a challenge with funding issues.
At least now we'll say with all the money we're paying for electricity, there are still challenges. Yeah. I'm just trying to sit in the...
there's still funding issues. There's still liquidity gaps. Okay. And then this is a problem in the sector. So allocating funds to deployment of meters is a challenge for them. That's why the Commission, in its wisdom, has created that solution where registered companies can come in, deploy their own resources, and provide meters.
So does this mean for every time we hear funding, where exactly are the discos or gencos expecting to get some of this funding from? Is it from the government now, or they will still have to milk the chicken that lays the golden egg, which is the people now?
Let me explain it to you this way. The pricing for the product is not something most Nigerians want to hear.
Okay.
Those who are actually paying cost-reflective tariff are those on band A.
Okay.
So for as long as the price that you are selling is not reflective of the cost of the product, you have liquidity challenge, meaning that you are not covering your cost. So for as long as you are not covering your cost, it also determines how you can make investment. No investors make investment on guesswork. That, okay, if I invest today, maybe I will recover my money tomorrow. They want to see the figure moving.
Okay.
Say, okay, if I put this one in, this one comes out. If I put this one, so for as long as you don't have that one, you have liquidity challenge. So the disco, what I'm saying, those on band A, which are just about 15% of total customers, those are the people paying cost-reflective tariff. So other categories of customers are not paying cost-reflective tariff. You see, when you also mention band A, the logic behind it is that on the basis of the level of investment in the network that you have in your area, this network can deliver 20 hours of service. You pay for that quality of service. If you're on band B, because the network there can deliver 16 hours, you pay at that threshold. The logic behind that is that, as a way of encouraging the service provider to recover money where they are delivering quality service. When they make gain there, you can be able to invest in the other area, so that at the end of the day, everybody will be moved up
to band A.
So, but you are talking of now recovering money from 15, not recovering money from 85. Can see the gap.
Okay, let me ask this like a layman now. Or even though most times when we compare the electricity industry to telecoms, they say no, they're not
exactly the same.
Are not exactly the same. Okay, let's bring it to this way now. Is this something that we would say should everybody in Nigeria or every household in and commercial areas in Nigeria be metered? Will it drop the pricing for electricity based on this analogy now? Sometimes you move into an estate that's supposed to house 100 residents, and then about three households move in, and the security is supposed to be paid 15,000 naira per month. So these three residents will begin to pay 5,000 naira per month to be able to make up 15,000. Now, by the time the rest of the residents move in, does that mean, they will no longer pay? The more people come in,
that's right,
the more the prices drop per household.
Ideally, yes.
Is that what we should expect also in the electricity industry?
That one will work, assuming we have enough capacity. If there is enough electricity to go around,
yes,
and everybody is metered,
yes,
the prices will drop. But what we have now is, in economics, even though it's not exactly the same thing, when you have the quality of service, the way electricity tariff is calculated is some level of losses is factored into the calculation, because the engineering is that some amount of electron is lost into the air as is being transported. So that one that is lost into the air, somebody has to pay for it.
Okay.
So the quality of your network determine how much is lost.
And the person to pay for it has to come from the customer.
Yes, every cost has to be borne by the customer.
Oh, okay.
So there is no free lunch.
Okay, no free lunch anywhere. Someone said even education is not free. You still have to pay attention.
So when your network is very weak, is not strong, that means the amount that is lost is also very high.
Okay, I'm sure this will be debatable and we'll speak more about it. Let's talk about the Electricity Act of 2023, which has ceded responsibility for electricity customers protection to State Electricity Regulatory Commission, especially those in those states that have indicated as such. Does it mean electricity customers in those areas can no longer bypass the state offices to come up to the federal level when they want to escalate issues?
No, that's exactly what it means. They are answerable to their state regulators. Because the distribution, the implication of that in the act, Uzo is a lawyer, he'll be able to explain further on that. So the implication of that is that distribution network is under the confine of the state regulator. However, for those states without state regulator, the commission is still there to take care of their complaints and every other aspect of their. But as soon as the state regulator takes effect, they are answerable to their state regulator.
Okay, so Mr. Osoma, at what point can they now escalate to the federal level? Should their state not be able to answer to their issues?
So for the states that have not transferred regulatory authority to the commission, right? Those states, NERC or the commission would hold sway.
Okay.
They would intervene in consumer complaint issues, right? But those states that we have completely transitioned power to, we have no business in that sector anymore.
Okay, relinquish the power to
Exactly.
the state.
Yeah.
Okay, that answers that. So as we wrap up, Mr. Faloshe, I'll just ask you this. Would electricity customers in states where the state regulators have been created still benefit from the various metering initiatives?
That will now be dependent on the decision of the state regulator. Because, like the National Mass Metering Program that he was talking about. No, sorry, the Meter Asset Provider Fund that he was talking about. A section or a portion of a tariff is being warehoused
Okay.
for purpose of metering customer. So the money is like warehoused by a consultant. It's like you have granite inside a bottle.
Okay.
So when the discos are ready to meter, they can access the fund. The meter is there. They buy the meter. They get the money. So if your disco or your state is not participating, if your tariff is not under that where you can get the money warehouse, there is no way you can participate in that. And it's also expected that each regulator should come out with their own creative ideas of ensuring that their customers are metered. But a state that is still under the federal influence would benefit from MAF.
Okay. So it's more like it's an open creativity for those who want to be creative about the initiative now. As it is. Thank you so much for this is where we end today's edition of Electricity Town Hall on the network service of Radio Nigeria. I've been speaking with an Assistant Director, Intergovernmental Relations, Office of the Chairman of NERC, Mr. Michael Faloshe. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on the program, I would say. Also with us in the studio has been Principal Manager, Legal Licensing and Compliance Division of the Commission, Mr. Uzoma Agbaim. Thank you also for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for your insightful contribution. I will say it's been very, very apt. Thank you once again for coming on the program. Appreciation to the production team, Studio Manager, Phineas Odoyo, Facilitator, Conrad Labe, Producer, Sunday Goche. Special thanks to our Executive Producer, Nsoshima Ki. I'm David Umoru. See you next Monday for another interesting edition of Electricity Town Hall. Goodbye.